Okay, it is super hot today. Here in Southern California, I don't know why it feels that way. It's been just as hot the rest of the week. Maybe it's extra humid or something. I'm not really quite sure. But anyways, I have this little paper that I put a lid down on at some point in time and had ink. It may have been that pad right there, but it left a little stain there. But oh, just to show you that that type of thing doesn't matter with all the things that we're going to do with this piece of paper anyway. This is stamping out the ledge here 3 times. This is on a quarter-size piece of paper at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, standard card size, you know, quarter of the letter size. Okay. But anyways, what I was getting at with the temperature, I feel like stamping something very cool in temperature, you know. And let's see what we can come up with here. All right, I'm tearing some paper towels. If you can hear, I tore off my 2-ply. This paper towel is not that great here. It's always best to... Paper towels have a grain to it, just like wood, so if you tear kind of with the grain, it's a little bit easier to get a clean tear, but sometimes tearing cross grain, you know, you get a nice jagged edge for those kind of you know, ripped paper towel masking technique where you're going for like clouds or mountains in the background, etc. Okay, so going for these, let's go for about 3 clouds right there. And I'm kind of revisiting this composition that I did years and years and years ago when it was one of my first advertisements on Rubber Stamp Madness. Okay, here's this little sun. This is called Hot Sun, but if you do kind of more of a blue color scheme, then it's more of a moon, right? All you have to do is change. Now, if I saw some craters on there or something like that, that would certainly say moon, but this one's just blank, so it could be either one. Okay, so you get that right there. So that moon's kind of above this cloud line. All right, now let's start toning this in, okay? Let me show you what I'm going to do as far as a lighting scheme. Alright, now I'm not using exactly clean stylus tools. That's the way my stylus tools tend to be. It's time that I clean them up though, you know, but I'll tend to do that all at once. I have several and I just clean them up all at once. After I get like 20 of them, you know, or I don't know, maybe that's not 20, but 15 of them kind of dirty. Okay, so this is just going with some gray. Now you can use you go with whatever color scheme you're working with, but this one I just want to do fast, so I'm just working in grayscale, and then I'll add some color tints to it later, and you'll see what I mean by that. But all right, so lighting schemes, okay? Let's make this really easy. If you have a moon in your scene, or a sun, or something like that, or a bolt of lightning, those are typically going to be the lightest things in the scene. They become the light source in the scene, you know, aside from, you know, some sort of man-made lighting, you know. But out in nature, those types of things tend to be the light source, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm leaving that moon light, toning in some of those clouds because you don't want to just leave them completely blank, but watch what I do here, okay? So I left some of those clouds light, and I'm going back into this ledge here, okay? Now it's because I had those clouds right there. If I didn't have any of them, I probably would have made this top part of this ledge light. So what I have here is light, kind of dark underneath here, see? Underneath this moon, right? So let's go from up here, dark, light, dark, light, dark. And then I'll leave this light down here, okay? So you just oscillate things. Now, like I said, if I didn't have those clouds there that are light, I would have done the top side of this ledge light up here, and I probably would have darkened down here, so It's just whatever you want to put in there. But the biggest thing that I'm getting at right here is that you just oscillate things, okay? That means you go back and forth, okay? So it's like checkerboarding, okay? So see this right down here? I've let this little area down here light, so I get that change of value happening. You can call it contrast and some, you know, going across there. And they just kind of, they play off each other, right? And it becomes our lighting scheme. You know, there's certain little things if you have some kind of subject matter that you're going to have in a scene, you know, and you kind of want them to stand out, then you're going to leave the area around them a little bit lighter. So again, don't think in terms of, well, what's going to be happening out in nature? You know, I mean, you could do that, you know, to some extent, like, you know, the moon is going to be light, right? But don't get caught up in, you know, real specifics throughout your scene. Hey, if that moon's here, would that cloud be light over there? None of that. You know, just checkerboard it, and you're going to be fine. You know, usually for me, there's an area that's light up in the sky, and there's an area that's light down below. And then there's little twists, you know. Like this one I added the clouds, so now there's 3 areas of light instead. So you can see this area is light, but I just bisect it, okay? You're kind of you're a lighting director. And this is your stage. Well, you say, well, hey, you know, I've never done lighting direction. Well, who of us have, you know? That's just kind of the concept of it. But just imagine you're, you know, someone has given you, you know, a set of spotlights or something like that. Well, what do you want the areas of your scene to be light, you know? And just aim it at that. But you're kind of doing the opposite. You're just kind of making the area darker as opposed to making some area lighter, okay? We're not doing some kind of additive process where we're adding light into it. We're just kind of defining that light through the use of shadow. This is a light blue Marvy. I want to go for a very cool toned scene right here. I was going to do this scene. I've done it years past on another really hot day. I wanted it to be like the coldest scene ever stamped, you know. You know, was it? I don't know. You know, I'm not going around searching the internet or something like that. But that's just kind of the concept of it. And this one's not going to be. I was going to do that type of scene again, you know, where this blustery, you know, wind chill factor kind of type of thing going on. But then I saw my Hanglider, and I thought, I want to do something with that. Okay, let's go with darker blues. Make it a little bit darker as we go. Okay, this one's just called blue, and it's more of a navy blue. It doesn't look so dark, you know, it doesn't look like we're doing too much here, but it's because the paper is getting a little bit moist, and the pulp of the paper is becoming, you know, fairly saturated with ink, so, you know, when we apply that ink down there, it's not really saturating and staining as much because it's kind of hovering on the surface of the paper. So if I wipe over it, sometimes I'm wiping off ink as opposed to it, you know, continuing the process of absorption and staining of the surface, which dye-based inks, that's how they work. They stain things. But if you're going like wet into wet, it's not transferring very quickly. Alright, so here's some of the Prussian blue. Prussian blue is very, very dark, and it does penetrate pretty darn well, even if your paper is pretty wet. I don't know why, but the viscosity of it is just different. I find that to be the case a lot of times with dark blues for some reason. There was a dark blue Adirondack pad that was you know, really, really, it was beautiful. It stained beautifully, you know, that transfer color. And sometimes I kind of know it because, you know, when I get it on my fingers, it just doesn't come off. You know, you kind of have to scrub it a little bit, which will be the case with this Prussian blue. Okay. Let me do something right here. I have a little bit of this Paris Dusk Memento re-inker, but I didn't use up completely. I don't think it's very dark, but let's take a look and see if... Ooh, that is really dark. I was going to say, I didn't think it was too dark. That's almost too dark, huh? Let me go to this little drier end of it. See, like that? I have so much ink down that it just really just blends out. But let's just keep spreading that around. I don't need too much of it, that's for sure. You saw that, huh? Wow. I changed my mind. Paris Dusk. You impress me. I don't have the Paris Dusk in pad form, so I haven't been using it very long at all. That's pretty good, though. I like that. I always like an ink or a color that really can make a statement. When needed. I think I'm very subtle, too. But in terms of the darker ones, I do want, you know, I do want that value of, in terms of the light and dark of that given color. Okay. Alright. No, oh, this is for my black pad here. I don't know what I'm doing looking around here. Alright, so here's the black. It's the same black that I used on my imagery. Okay. These stylus tools are pretty convenient, and I'm sure I'll be thinking about this every time I use them. Well, maybe in the near future, because I just found out that the company that makes them, ClearSnap, is closing they're closing their doors. They've been around a really long time, so. You never want to hear that from any company, but especially ones that you really enjoy their product line, or in this case, a specific tool. So anyways, we have quite a few of these left, but I don't know, they're going fast because people are kind of in a panic mode. I'll see if they fill my last order that I placed sometimes, you know. You never know. Because people that work there, you know, inevitably are probably going to be looking for other jobs, so if they get something before, you know, all their orders are filled, then they're going to be short-handed there at that company. But I wish them the best. I mean, thank you so much, ClearSnap, for, I don't know, your contributions to us stampers and the industry in general. Look at how beautiful that is in terms of those blues, that deep saturation like that. It's really you know, kind of creates a nice glow. Alright, so here's the my star of the scene, this little Hanglider stamp. I don't know if I mentioned that I was going to use that in the beginning of the scene, but that's the point of the scene. It puts this little character in the air. put him right in front of the moon. You know, when we do scenic stamping, I mean, with any type of project, we tend to get lost in the project. We lose all track of time, you know, etc., etc. You know what I'm talking about as a crafter and stamper. But one thing about scenes is they can be semi-transportive. You know, you can kind of go, you know, because it does, we recognize, you know, things like clouds and trees and whatnot. So it can be kind of a mentally, you know, transportive in terms of, you know, subconsciously going to this thing. I don't hang glide, but I don't know, just in terms of my imagination or whatever, you can kind of imagine maybe the feeling or the spirit of it, doing something like that. So anyways, here's some pigmenting. I was about to do my versifying impressions on here with some trees, but let's get to this first, because the versifying can stamp over pigment ink, no problem, but you can't put this pigment ink over the versifying. It'll kind of get a little splotchy and smeary. Alright, so this is giving that cloud a little bit of a kind of a hazy, you know, look to it. You know what, too? I like this area back here, but it's a little bit, I can use a little bit. Let's go back to that, what I was talking about in this paper towel texturing. Okay, let's go in with some of this right here and hit this up a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to add in some little bit of texturing with this. Ooh, that is real. I think I had that that Paris Dusk on here. Yeah, I was going with some. So this is a little bit of a combination of Paris Dusk and Prussian blue here. So getting a little bit more texture in that sky and building up that little area back there. I'm a big fan of texture. Alright, let me use some of this Paris Dusk here and kind of spread that around. I have it on one side of my thing, so I'm just kind of dabbing it down there a little bit to squeeze some of that ink off, and then you can just kind of spread that out like this. Alright, so you see that little kind of masking in here? It'd give it a little bit more dimension, don't you think? I don't think I'm going to put it across the moon. Although, I don't know. I guess you could. But I don't think I will on this one. Alright, so let's get down to some of these clouds and bring these clouds to life a little bit. I think they look okay without this, but you add it on there and it kind of adds that nice, kind of soft texturing in it. To me, it makes it look like there's that moisture in the air kind of coming alive and glowing by doing this, because when you apply this ink, it's a translucent ink. Okay, you can see through it. In some areas I want to show it through more. That's why I'm kind of blotting it off with my finger. If I put too much, like little blobs, and I just kind of dab it off like that. It's your perfect pigment ink, you know, tool. Just your finger. A lot of times I remove more ink than I apply, you know, just because there might be a little bit too much, or a lot, you know, way too much. Okay, so let's go into this Hanglider a little bit and diffuse it a little bit. We'll say that, you know, that moon is kind of backlighting this little figure, so they're kind of in a little bit of haze there. Okay, alright. So we have something like that. Alright. let's go in and add some additional trees. Now, a lot of times I'll just use that same black dye-based ink. But if I don't allow this to dry, it's fairly moist on there, so it's just a really easy bet just to take a VersaFine black. I didn't really start using this until, I don't know, fairly recent, relatively speaking, for me. I don't know, maybe a year ago? I don't know. I've been surprised at just how much darker this VersaFine looks on my scenes. And I do like a really dark black pad. Something as close to 100% black as I can get, which I thought I had in the Marvy, but... Okay, now see, I'm masking off this ledge. I did a lesson recently going from, like, I don't know, beginning to advanced, you know, little techniques, and like this ledge is here, and I could just put these, you know, trees right in front of it, but if you mask it off, it seems a little bit more dimensional by sandwiching kind of objects. Like foreground objects. And background objects too, but especially in the foreground for me. Okay, so see that right there? Trees in front, trees at back. Go into different heights. See that? It kind of frames off the glider a little bit, or a lot. One thing about scenic stamping, you can use the same stamp so many times in a single scene if it's generic enough, and you can get a lot of mileage. But you know, when someone sees this, I don't know if they're necessarily thinking, unless you're a rubber stamper, like, that's the same tree. Let me see, how many times did they use? They used it 12 times. You know, when someone sees this, you know, that's, I don't know, they don't do scenic stamping or whatnot. They might think that that whole ledge and whole foreground is one big stamp, but if it was, you wouldn't be able to get the variation, you know, from scene to scene. Then you can just by placing it however many times you want within a given space. Alright, so I have these little textures here in the form of these little rocks. I don't know, I'm using these a lot. They're right in front of me, so were they not, I don't know if I would think about it as much, but I do like that little texture in there, or additional texture. So it's kind of subtle. There you have it at kind of arm's distance, like so. Alright, now I was wondering if I was going to do this or not, but I don't think any of us are hang glider. Who does hang gliding? You know, they have a glider port in our community, and I see them up all the time, but well, I don't see them up all the time. Sometimes I see them flying out there, and I've hiked to the launch pad before, but it doesn't seem like as many people do that. It seems like it was more like a 1970s thing, but I really like that image, because it really, there's a certain spirit to flying, isn't there? You know, just on the wind that's available. Okay, I have that bleed-proof white and no hang glider. Don't quote me on this. Would be, I wouldn't think they would be doing that type of activity if it was snowing. So I don't know if this is going to look like snow, if it'll look like a little bit of stars in there. I don't know. But let's see. I just love it as a textural form. Okay, so let me see, make sure I'm doing this. Okay, I'm going to flick it like this. Sometimes I look at my videos after and it's like, my hand was right in front of everyone, you know, where you couldn't even see what I was doing, and I apologize for that. my bleed proof white is very, very thin, so it's giving me some kind of elongated little splatters, which I don't really want. But I can just get rid of those. It's a very... It doesn't seem like it would be very forgiving, but it really is. See, like that one right there? I don't like that one. So let me see here. Let me see, I'll just take this paper towel. I'll just make a little Dr. Martin's bleed proof white remover, like that, okay? So see that one right there? Just take this and just... There it goes, right? Scenic stamping, it might seem kind of like a, you know, like a real technical process when you look at the end result. You know, there might be details in it and stuff like that. A lot of the details and stuff like that are in the design itself, and you're just making impressions. But the process as I do, you know what I mean? How I had that, you know, that blotch of ink there on the paper, I just went right over it. Okay, now I'm adding in a few little highlights with my gel pen on these clouds, right? To kind of reiterate the lighting. The lighting is coming from above. Okay. This little area down here that's kind of capturing some light, you know, so maybe I'll put a little bit of a highlighting down here in this lightness, you know, where it's shining on the, reflecting off of the surface of this rock. Okay. Okay, now let me see. This is something that everyone can do that's really fun. And it's not too technical at all, okay, in terms of lighting. You have your light source right here. So let's have these trees over to the right of the moon, okay? So let's put some highlights on the sides of these trees facing the moon, okay? Okay. And this one right here, put some highlights on the sides of that. Couple little dots or more, whatever. I mean, you could put, you don't have to just really be super, you know, affixed to that concept of, you can put some dots on the other side if you want to, but just in general, see what, doesn't that make it look like the light is hitting that? And where do you put the highlights on this, the trees to this side of the scene? Now the moon is to the right of these trees, so you're going to put the highlight on that right side. And see, now what you've done is you've reiterated lighting in the scene, you know, to some extent. A few little dots, you know. Where's this tree? It's kind of right underneath, right? So it really doesn't even matter. You can put, you know, little highlights on it like so. Okay. Putting little highlights on some of these little rocks down here. Well, not little rocks, this ledge image right down here. Okay, so see, doesn't that kind of bring that area to life a little bit? That's with the gel pen dot. And look it up here. So that's splatter painting. You could hand do all those little dots in there. It's not going to take too long, you know? If it's seen as something kind of like, oh my gosh, you know, there's like 50 dots up there, I'm going to do that. Yeah, you know, yeah, if you're in a hurry or something like that. To me, it's kind of like meditation or something like that. All right, here's a silver pen. Silver goes really well with blue, right? So let's go in here and add some of these beautiful metallics, okay? Would you be able to see all these stars out on a full moon night? No, you know, But this is our scenes, you know, when you're doing a scene like that. I don't make kind of internal comments like that to myself. Let me see if you can see some of these. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. All right, so, okay. I don't know if you can see that some of these are a little bit more metallic in terms of their reflective quality. Here, yeah, see some of these over here? So that kind of, they differentiate themselves a little bit. See how they kind of glow? Like that. And this is a blue scene, of course, so if you have like, you know, blue gel pens, they're really a fantastic addition to, you know, the details within the scene. Okay, sometimes you make a little bit bigger one or whatnot. It's looking really busy now in some ways, but you know, when you hold it at an arm's distance, that, you know, something like that would be more the viewing distance. You know, we usually don't look at scenes like this, you know, inspect them, you know, it's like that. But I don't know, I think all that different type of detail really kind of brings the area to life and whatnot. All right, so there's my very cool nighttime type of scene. Cool in terms of temperature. And things are framed off as is, and I don't know. To me, you know, I'm starting to get hot again because I'm thinking about it now, but I think during this whole process I didn't even think about that, you know, the temperature here that I'm sitting in, because, I don't know, for me I was like, you know, in the scene, not literally, but, I don't know, mentally or whatever. I don't know about emotionally, maybe, well, maybe, but, alright, so there we have it. Hope you enjoyed that kind of nighttime little journey into this setting here. Hope you enjoyed the process. And thank you for tuning into the Stampscapes channel.